Okay, thank you. Okay, so we get good sound. So there's start with a story. This is a customs official is having a problem. I think it was somewhere in Europe. That he knows this guy would be coming across the border all the time, and he'd be riding his bicycle. He had a pack in the back of his bike, and after a while, the customs official is like a little suspicious. What's going on here? So he looks in his pack. He goes, "What do you have here?" Oh, just sand, just sand. Oh, okay. So he sees this happening for a few days. I want to look in there. What do you? Looks like you're smuggling something. I want to check out this sand. And he goes, it's just sand. So they take his pack, put it on the table, and pour it out. And they're sifting through it. Okay, there's nothing here. The customs official is pretty smart, so he's thinking, okay, he knows I checked. Now he's going to really bring it now because he thinks I think it's safe. So he comes back. Nope, we're going to check it again. Nope, just sand all the time. Keeps on happening. He says, we're going to take some of your sand. We're going to take it to the lab. You're smoking something, drugs, something's in there, right? So, nope. Okay, so it's fine. Next day, rides his bike, comes through there again. Finally, this customs official is going crazy, can't figure it out. So this keeps happening, and then they met up like at a bar, and the customs official sees this guy and goes over there. I know you're smuggling something. You got to tell me what you're smuggling. Also, I see is sand. He goes, oh, it's easy. I'm smuggling bicycles. So the thing we want to get at is things aren't always as they appear. So you guys all watch any football fans? You watch the Super Bowl? Pretty boring game, right? Yeah, defensive struggle. So I mean, just like quick show of hands, who has the advantage in football? The offense or the defense? Offense or defense? Usually the offense. The offense knows what they're going to do. They're calling the play, right? They're reading the defense, figuring out what to do. So none of us are like professional hackers, right? It's okay if you are, but maybe some of us have done red team stuff, right? So we have to think like an attacker. So we want to be like that. You have to think of like an attacker to play good defense because we're basically on the defense team, right? So I was kind of like, why was that Super Bowl the way it was? And I want to look at I looked at the plays. I'm trying to understand it. Let's stop for a second. So here's a key play at the end of the game. I mean, New England still had a chance to win, because they're like 15 points behind. But here's what Drake May saw, and the point is, this is how the defense could get an advantage. They're lined up right here in this play, and the key guys to look at are this guy Devin Witherspoon, and then over here Ernest Jones. They're lined up in a pass situation. They need a lot of yards in this play, 1st and 10. They want to get, they need to score quickly, right? So this is how they lined up. So he takes a look and he comes to the line. They can mix a play, call audibles and all that stuff. And he's in a pass situation. But oops. Let me go back. So let's let it run. Now you're going to see how they line up, and notice Witherspoon's over here, and he's going to cover the receiver right there, Diggs, and then now you see the linebacker's kind of sneaking in. So they're altering the play before as May takes a look at what's going to go on, and you'll see the play happen in a second. It should be running. And now you can see now it starts to get close. And now notice what he's going to do. Now both of them are going to get in there, and they didn't shift to take advantage. So they have 2 guys coming in where there's 1 to block, and he got right through. So, and then of course it's a pick 6, and it goes in for an interception. So if we go back, oops. So right here, you can see the receivers are going to be open if he would have picked up on that play. But he was deceived because they looked like they were in pass protection, but they were really going to blitz because usually, they have good personnel. Witherspoon is an elite athlete. The thing is, he's fast, so he can do a blitz from far out, and that's why this play worked out so well. So the point is, this is why the game was boring. This is how they won, because they messed with his mind. They made him think one thing and they did another thing, and he couldn't figure it out. Now he's an awesome athlete. Oops, I'm getting some feedback here, but and he almost won the MVP. But he hasn't seen that many cycles. It's only his second year. His LLM hasn't been trained as much, so he is not used to all this. And they basically overloaded him. He couldn't process all that stuff. So you got to understand. The point here is to understand who you're dealing with. How are you going to defend against them? And in this case, mess with their minds. So it's going to be technical types of talk tonight, but more of how can we think like an attacker? What's their psychology? What makes them work? That, hey, we're seeing more than just packets coming in here. We want to look at with Wireshark and see what's going on. But we want to see who's the guy behind it. What are they trying to accomplish? So, and that's the point of this slide, is they're people. And we want to use some kind of psychology to mess with their mind, basically, because that's part of, it's a chess game. If we do this, they'll do that. What are they thinking? How are they going to work? So a lot of this came out of actually some research our chief product officer, Kelly Shortridge, did. She was hired into Fastly a few years ago. She was a well-known security speaker, and she had some background in behavioral economics, which kind of plugged into this, and she had her influence on getting this in the product. So there's a couple of things to know here. Behavioral economics terms, one's nudge and sludge. So nudge is a hint. That's like a little, going to nudge somebody in the right direction. So like, for instance, you're signing up for a new account and they want you to put in a password. They're going to pop up and say, hey, it has to be 12 characters. It has to have, special characters and high, uppercase, lowercase, that kind of thing. That's kind of a nudge. Another one that I came across in researching this is like you go to a cafeteria, maybe where they care about you. If they put the healthy food in front and the fatty or the less healthy food in the back, you're more likely to take the healthy food, or vice versa, depending on what they're trying to maximize profit or whatever, or have you buy more. But so that's kind of a nudge. That's a good thing. We want to nudge people into the right direction, especially security. So here's password string. Now the other one is sludge. That's when you make it hard. So you've all signed up for a free account, right? And then 30-day free, and then at 29th day you want to cancel it. You can't figure out where to go in the menus to cancel the account. I don't know if that's happened to you, but you end up having to call them. So that's called sludge. You want to make it hard. So you don't want to make it hard for your users, but or your customers. You want to make it hard for the bad guys to get in. So that's what we're going to talk about. How can we make it difficult for them, frustrate them, hit on their emotions, get in their mind, and have them go somewhere else or do something different, but not bother us. So we want to do it for good. So the idea is, how can we have friction with them, so their usual bag of tricks, the things that they could try as they try and get into your account, make it more difficult to do that. Well, there's a cost. So again, whether it's a state actor, a hacktivist, or someone, most of them are probably for financial gain. They're trying to get into a website, get credit card numbers, get money from bank accounts, things like that. So, but there's a cost. They have to spin up servers. They have to spend time. They have to code. They have to, recon you, figure out what's going on. They're invested. They have something going on, both quantitatively, obviously, in the dollars, their time, and reputationally. Some, they're black or bad hackers out there that are going to take money to do things. and or for hire for criminal gangs and so forth. They want to have a reputation. We can get in that account. We can break that. We can get this. We can do ransomware, whatever they're trying to do. So that they care about their reputation. They want to, they're again humans. They have to process and think about their strategy and what they want to do. They only have so much bandwidth, like we all do. Get stressed out about things. There's so much you can do, and then the psychology of it, which is kind of probably the main thing we're going for here. Okay, so one of the key ideas here, again from behavioral economics, is something called prospect theory. Anybody familiar with this? Okay, good. So here's the main thing, the main point, and we'll give an illustration. The idea is utility in economics term, or think of it as joy, is the y-axis, and then the gains or losses is the x-axis. So the idea here is getting every incremental bit of utility you get or joy you get as you move down on the x-axis is not as much as it is early on. That curve up here kind of flattens out, all right? So you get, after you've had your third ice cream cone, the fourth one's not quite as good. So on the other hand, when it comes to loss, that curve is much steeper. So the pain of the loss for a given amount on that x-axis going down, so it's like here it's showing it's more painful to lose $50 than it is to gain another $50. So you're gonna have more pain for this. So to put this out, we'll do kind of an experiment here. So let's say you get a call from the IRS, right? And they say, hey, good news. We found a mistake in your taxes. You're gonna get $1,000. And so, wow, I'm pretty excited. I'm gonna get $1,000 on my back of my taxes. They say, hey, we're in the Trump era. We're making deals. Here's our deal. We're gonna flip a coin. If it's heads, you're gonna get $2,000. But if it's tails, you get nothing. So the deal is you can get 2,000, nothing, or you could just take the 1,000. No questions. Who would take the deal? Well, behavioral economics, according to this, the incremental value you're going to get from doubling your money is not double your joy. And most people are going to play it safe. Hey, I got $1,000. I don't want to risk losing it. That's great. I'm the head. Okay, so now let's erase that idea. Now we get back to IRS calls you and says, hey, we found a mistake in your taxes. You owe $1,000. Oh, that's not good. But we're having a deal today. Here's the deal. We'll flip a coin. If it's heads, you don't pay anything. If it's tails, you got to pay $2,000. So who's going to take the deal? Okay, that's what this predicts. People it pains them to lose the money way more than it gives them the thrill of winning it. And so that kind of thing, like, we've all probably gambled at some point, gone to Vegas, played blackjack. There's a tendency to chase losses. I mean, I have stocks I should have sold years ago that went down, but it's going to come back up. I can't pull the plug and take that loss. But we've all been there. But that's what the behavioral economics says. If we don't act rationally, there's some psychology that comes into it that's predictable. And so we kind of try to merge that into how can we apply that to cyber defense and maybe integrate that in products so we can make use of that to screw with the minds of attackers. So the way we want to do this is deception, or trying to make things different, trying to even that playing field. So along those lines, there was a golfer, I think his name is Charlie Wilson. This is like in the late 50s. He was the blind national golf champion. And because he was champion, he got to play around with Ben Hogan, who was like the premier golfer in the 50s. And I think this match took place in Dallas. So they got together and, Hogan was very impressed. This blind golfer, wow, how can you play? Charlie lost his sight during World War II, but he was an elite athlete, so he took it up and he was very good. And he was thrilled to play with Hogan. And so Charlie met him and said, hey, how about we put some money on it? And Hogan's, being a gentleman and the best golfer in the world at the time, said, oh, you're blind. I can't play with you. I can't take money from you. So apparently Charlie said, chicken, let's make 1,000 a hole. And then Hogan, competitor, right, said, oh, okay, but I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to play just as hard as I can, and we're going to go play. Charlie says, no problem. Meet me here at midnight. We'll tee off. So the point is, there are ways to level the playing field. You got to think about how you're going to do that. So, and this comment, Sun Tzu has all kinds of great aphorisms, but this is one that's appropriate here. So what is deception? It's been around for a long time. Trojan horse is obviously one of the more famous ones. The second bullet is it blends in with the natural world like a chameleon. In the animal world, it's quite common. Tigers or cats have stripes and so forth, so they can fit in, not be a prey. In our world, it's been, this is not new. People have done honeypots, particularly, have been used for a while. Lure the attacker in, try and figure out what they're doing. So this is kind of an extension of that for more modern era. And we want to emphasize is we're not playing dirty. If someone's trying to rip us off, get into our systems, all bets are off. We have to defend ourselves. So it's perfectly ethical to do this. Okay, so this is an area right near here. This is looking at Santa Monica. If you look at the top, that kind of diagonal line, that's the runway at Santa Monica Airport, if you guys are familiar with the area. And this is like if we're looking southwest, the street right here is Ocean Park Boulevard. So you can see where the airport is and where these housing tract is, right? So this is taken in like 44, 45 during World War II. So looks like a nice housing tract, right? But you'd be wrong. It's aircraft factory, Douglas Aircraft Factory right there. All that is a tarp. That was not really a housing tract. It was all fake. And underneath here, they're building airplanes. So, go down the street and go see it. They have a museum over there. But, so this is some of the things they do. This is part of a common deceptive tactic. And if you look here more closely, fake houses. They actually got the set designers from Warner Brothers to build this. That was part of their contribution to the war effort. And they got, leading landscape architects to lay this out so it would look real. It's before like satellites and all that. And there was a lot of concern that LA had so much war production, just the aerospace. They're really concerned that it might get attacked. So this is the kind of thing that's been done. It's very common in war. I was just reading one of the guys who's the expert in this, who's passed away. It was Bart Whaley. He's has a PhD in deception for military use. It was a very interesting thing. He became a magician. Any of you ever been to Magic Castle? Right. So he was a magician at Magic Castle, but he was a military deception expert. If you've ever been there, Magic Castle is you're unlike maybe going to Vegas or something. They're right there, and they're doing these card tricks and rope tricks and stuff right in your face. And how do they do that? So it's bringing this up because it's a mindset to get into. How can I be deceptive but natural with it? Okay, so this is why we think it's kind of failed in the past with honeypots. And I think, especially nowadays, attackers are much more sophisticated. They used to be and could spot this. Also, it was difficult to do. So if you have a system, going back a few years, you had to rack and stack it. You had to get all this hardware. You got to make sure that all the software is loaded correctly and everything's up to snuff. Very time consuming, very expensive, very hard to keep it in sync. And it doesn't look real. So the point is, there's this thing that we termed uncanny valley. That means attacker can, this is fake. I know this is fake. It's not working the way I think it should. And it just didn't work that easily, and it was very difficult and expensive to do. So this is the three things that make this kind of deception work. Fidelity, is it real? Is an attacker going to think I'm in the real system? How much does it cost? As defenders, can we afford to do this? Is it worth it? And isolation. We have to make it real, but we don't want them to be, touching real production data, obviously. And usually you couldn't do this, and you could pick two, but it's kind of changed now. Since we're in the cloud era, we have infrastructure as code. It's not that hard to spin up an identical replica. In fact, we do it all the time for staging and dev and so forth, and as we version things. So it's much less friction to get this kind of environment set up, and especially you can hit these 3 points, especially when you're weighing off, hey, what's the risk if they steal social security numbers or credit cards. So this is kind of how we're looking at it. What would happen with and without deception? Our first product we're going to show in a second is account takeover. So typically what happens here on the left is they do something, they get blocked, right? Okay, so they go, okay, they caught me. I know I blocked. So somebody went out, they spent that money, they have the reputation, they're working for something, they're doing it on their own to try and make a living doing hacking. They bought a list on the dark web or something, then maybe they paid a lot of money for it. And okay, I got a bag of tricks. I'm going to shift, I'm going to do this and that. They gave me that signal that I'm detected, but I can do other things. I can spoof IP, I can change my user agent, I can go on a different ASN, all kinds of stuff, use VPN, so forth. What we're trying to do is, in deception, we're going to give him that list, but he's not going to know if it's right or wrong. In this case, with the ATO, he's going to give username and credentials, and we're going to say, oh, it's just bad username and credentials. Because if you buy a list, like say 10,000 names on the dark web, and you're going to, I don't know, Bank of America, the chances that some of those names would be the same username and password from wherever they got that list is, even if it's 1 or 2%, that's pretty good. That's what they're expecting. But if nothing happens, they're going, hey, did I get a bad list? I get ripped off. What's going on? So that's where they're going to get frustrated. And that's where that, hey, I got ripped off. I'm known to get in these systems. Where'd I get this? That's that chasing your losses psychology starts to come in. And that's what we want to drive it towards. So this is how we're doing it on our initial round at Fastly. Because we have the Edge platform, we can program things. So we're extended our web application firewall rules so you can do a deceptive response. So right now we could do block, we can do allow, we could do, or before this, we can do, like for bots, we could do a challenge, send them a CAPTCHA or some kind of proof of work, that kind of thing. But here we're just going to deceive them. So that means once you've triggered the things we think an attacker would trigger, and that's going to obviously vary and change, but we're going to always serve you a username and password invalid. Not that you're blocked, it's invalid. So we're not giving him the information that he needs to shift and try a different strategy. He's like, what's going on? I haven't seen this. I don't know if it's good or bad. So here's just kind of how we set up in the rules. In this case, we have, we use the concept of signals, which is tags, basically. So we have a signal that depicts bad bots that we're doing an inspection on, part of our WAF. And then if it's going to the login page, we're going to serve an invalid response. So we could set a number of conditions here, including different types of signals, whether it's path or ASN or user agent. And we can also base it on rate. If he's coming in hot, these guys want to get blast through these lists pretty quickly. So they don't want to, log in slowly. On the other hand, that's a way we can trap them because real people don't log in, even if they forget their password, they're not logging in 20 times a minute. So we can set a threshold to rate limit them with deception. Here's a demo we have. I'm going to see if it works and if you can hear it.
Let's learn how to do more than just stop attackers. Let's completely deceive them. Here's Bub's Bakery's login page. Right now, our application is configured to return login success about 50% of the time for effect. I have an example ATO bot running against the login page, and we can see it switching between login success and invalid username and password. Now, let me show you a 100% valid username and password. Admin at example.com with the password is admin. As we can see, as expected, it logs in successfully. Now, here's a rule that we've configured for the login v4 path. This rule identifies login attempts on that endpoint and applies the new deception action with the type ATO. So any request that matches this rule will get Bub's Bakery's standard invalid username and password response, regardless of whether the credentials are successful or not. Now, one quick note. We're using paths in this demo, such as login v3, login v4, and login v5, just to showcase different scenarios. In a real production environment, you typically see a single path like login, and you use different conditions or signals to determine when to trigger deception. So let's see that original rule in action. We're going to send the working credentials, admin at example.com, with the password admin. And there it is. The response is a normal looking invalid username and password message, but in reality, those credentials would have worked. We've just fooled the attacker into thinking they failed. Let's see another one. With this rule, any client that is tagged as a suspected bot attempting to access our login v3 path will be returned a deceptive response. Let's rerun our ATO bot against that endpoint. As we can see, is no longer going to see any more successful logins. We can also apply it dynamically after a rate limit is hit or a certain threshold of failed logins is reached. So here, I have a rate limit rule for my login v5 path, and any requests with a threshold equal to 5 or more will get served that deceptive response. Let's go to our login page, and we'll log in with our valid credentials, admin at example.com, admin, and we can see it was successful. I'm going to refresh a few times to trigger that rate limit threshold. And we can see we're now being served the deceptive response after we triggered the rate limit threshold. Now, let's switch back over to the customer console, and we're searching for the signal deception. And we can see right here, here's our login v5 being triggered, triggering the rate limit rule. And being tagged with our new deception signal, indicating that it was deceived with the ATO type. This gives customer insight into the requests that are being mitigated by this new action. So that's the Fastly's new deception action for ATO within the next-gen WAF. A stealthy, intelligent way to slow down and confuse attackers without tipping them off. It's simple to deploy, hard to detect, and extremely frustrating for anyone trying to automate credential stuffing attacks. Thanks for watching, and remember, with Fastly's next-gen WAF deception action, you don't just block bots, you make cyber attackers cry.
Okay, so you got to see it in action, see how it works. Again, the key is going to be you still got to put a lot of work into it. You got to figure out what those triggers are that are going to make it fire. But that I think the rate one is the most illustrative one. But let's see, let's play attacker here. How could the attacker, anybody have any ideas how the attacker could have possibly figured out he's being deceived and his list isn't bad? What would he have done in advance?
Do an invalid password, then try to trigger the invalid password and make sure they're identical, because maybe you're not 100% spoofing what the error that you would get with the real invalid.
Okay.
I would use known good credentials.
Yeah, that was the answer. So if he was smart, he would say it was a bank or I don't know, some e-commerce site. He would log in and have the ones he knows are good, and he'd put them. Say he had a list of 10,000, he'd intersperse them into there. So that's kind of thinking how the attacker would think. So I know this works. It's not working now. It is valid. Now he's figured out. So it's not foolproof. And we're kind of going to go through how we should think about this and kind of pivot a little. This is something, again, a lot of this came from our CPO, Kelly Shortridge. She wrote a book, which we're going to be raffling off, called Security Chaos Engineering. And one of the things she advocates in here, I don't know if you guys may have used, is an attack tree. It's basically how could these attack vectors work? Where am I going to block them? What are they likely to do? It's kind of like mapping out chess moves. Here are my systems. Here's the mitigations I have in place. Where are they going to go with it? So kind of it's a really cool program. It's on the web. You can build your own attack trees very easily with it. Has a nice interface and scripting for it. But basically, we start out, we're looking at all these different possibilities. I won't run through them all, but here are the different paths it can go and what happens. So we went down this path, bulk credential stuffing. And then like the one that Fred just pointed out here, a low and slow. So could maybe go under the radar. So, hey, I was stuffing it, 30 logins a minute. And now I'm deceived. Now I can go down to 20 or 10 until I can find out where I can get in without getting deceived like that. So the workaround of that would be put them in the penalty box for longer. So if you say, hey, you're blocked for 5 hours, you can't go back and iterate. So that would be a mitigation to block that. So that there are things you have to do. But the idea here is to kind of map it out and think about it, how you do it. But on the other hand, if he finally determines, hey, I can stuff at 5 credentials a minute, then he has to think, I have this huge list. At 5 a minute, it's going to take me all day. It's not worth it. Basically, you want to move on to someone else. Don't wish bad on anybody else, but you want them to just get so frustrated, or the economic cost, the time cost, it's just not worth it, even if he does figure out what's going on. So here's kind of just going down the path. I had to break this up. So he gets the invalid response. So he detects that possibility. Like we said, he could figure it out. But we did give him some sludge, which made it harder. So here's another, as we go down the track, just to kind of open up the ways to think about this and how to map it out and how to test it. So like if he did get in, okay, now we're going to do multi-factor authentication. That would be another one. So maybe he pivots again and he has a valid cookie. So in this case, Fastly has capability to do session mapping. So he might have a valid cookie that mapped to a certain session back on the back end, and it's something we can script on our front end. So it extends, that's part of the CDN part, but we can extend the security posture. But he's got a cookie that points to a back end that's closed that session because we forced it to the old session that was on the cookie originally. So it's just kind of things to think about how these guys might work. But again, going back here, he could get past this possibly. We're thinking of all situations. And then we're looking, okay, how can we find him based on other behavioral stuff? Where is he from? What country is he from? Is he, how fast he's going? All all the parts of his request can potentially be signals that we can do logic on to determine whether we want to trigger it. Those kind of behavioral things should have been back up front so we could more precisely, surgically decide when we were going to start the deception process. But again, just a way to do this. If you want to play around with it, you can take a picture of that and go to the app, or remember it's called deciduous.app. And this and the whole philosophy around this is explained in Kelly's book that, again, we're going to be auctioning off. If you want to learn more about it, or you could buy it online. This is the book, and this is Kelly Shortridge, who's now our chief product officer. So she brings this whole security sentiment to Fastly, and now she's in charge of all the products. So we're going to see this kind of security awareness. I think it's a really great part of the long arc pivot that Fastly's made from being a CDN with kind of a ModSec, WAF, when they're getting buying signal sciences, and now integrating this all throughout the product lifestyle. So basically, kind of wrap it up here. The old way is that 403 forbidden. We give them a clean signal. Now we're deceiving them, and we want to make them a little crazy, make them work harder, feel bad. So what's next? Again, I kind of mentioned this kind of mindset we're putting into other products. The next one is, I'll talk about that in a second, but the other thing we're going to get, and we're going to expand on this, is observability. We had that tree. That's our guess of how we should architect our security posture. But we want to know, what did he actually do? Where did he actually go? We're going to extend that kind of inline honeypot capability to extend him into a deceptive environment. So we're going to put this is something that's coming out at just preview, don't tell anybody, but I think we're going to announce some hints to this at our RSA in a few weeks. But we want to have deceptive broken environments, kind of like having juice shop built in to the WAF. So the guy will go, oh, I've seen this. I know how to go down here. Maybe some of my tricks will work, but it's all fake. But we're going to be able to measure him. What did he do? How did he think? And we're going to get that kind of reconnaissance on what they're doing, so we can stay ahead of them a little bit. Okay, so we have a question. What's the behavioral economics theory that explains this? Anybody know the answer? Remember that?
By getting them to chase their losses, they don't just switch to the next tool so we can exhaust their resources.
Right, but we're looking for where that when we had the graph. What was the name of the theory? Prospect. All right.
You get a prize.
You get a prize for winning. Throw him a prize. He got one too. So, okay. All right, guys, got the game where you got these. These are soft. They won't hurt you, but. Okay, so this is what do we call weaponized friction? Okay, good. Who got it? Who else came close? We got a lot of these things. Good. Sludge. That's the answer we're looking for. Okay. What are we doing to make this happen? What was that? Right, but what are we doing specifically with the passwords? We're swapping out the password, and maybe I didn't get into that. So, but we're randomizing the password. Yeah, I didn't talk about that so much, but just to go back, when we get that request, how are we doing this? Why are we getting a real response? We're taking the real password and we're scrambling it, sending it back to the origin. The origin says, hey, I don't know you. So the response looks real because it is real, because we really did change the password. And then once it's happening and it's hitting the rate limit, then we can remember that response. We don't have to bother the origin while it's in the timeout period. But that, yeah. So we're in this period with this evolution of the product, it's based on randomizing the password in line of the request. You can throw a few out there for me.
So you don't have to do anything clever to make it match. So you're sending a bad password.
Right. We're programmatically randomizing it. Right. Exactly. Okay. So here's what do we call the difference between a honeypot that's recognizable and one that's not? Remember that term we used? Right, exactly. You got it. Okay, good. Okay, so just to wrap it up with Fastly, this is one component, one defensive strategy or tactic that you could put into it. You have to have, obviously, defense in depth. I think everyone here knows that. This is kind of what we can provide. DDoS, you saw the cache layer picks up a lot of things, especially with DDoS. Our NG-WAF has a traditional OWASP top 10 rate limiting, bot management, bot challenges, things like that. And we're also always working on our infrastructure inside of Fastly to make sure that our code is secure and reliable by looking at mutability, memory safety, things like that. So it's engineered to be that way. And so this is kind of wrapped up what we're doing. We kind of came up with this tagline: "Fake them till you break them." So that's what we kind of get into those guys' heads. So I just want to make a Fastly service announcement. If Dan's still here, he's one of our engineers, works on our WAF. He's interested in talking to you if you have any. Oh, he left?
He's outside.
Oh, he's outside. Well, if you have any things on the WAFs, on ours or anybody's that you'd like to see in the product, or complaints or whatever he's interested in hearing, because we're always looking to our customers or people in the security community, what we can do better, what's really going on, what's really bothering you at night. So, okay, so it's great to be here and I appreciate your attention.